What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Bills Chat Live. We are here every Friday night. I am Josh McCarty. With me tonight is Stokes, filling in for Luca, who has other arrangements. Stokes, how are you doing on this Friday night?
Doing great. Feeling much better after the last few weeks.
It's been nice because boy, this season was spiraling out of control quickly, and the Broncos game sure felt like the end. And I know you and I were chatting after that, and we kind of had resigned ourselves to, well, if they can't beat the Broncos at home, then it's not going to matter anyway. But then they give us all that hope in Philadelphia, and they still lose, and you're like, come on, guys, they're still open for you. And then the last couple of weeks have been absolutely fantastic. But here's what we're going to get into tonight. I actually put a poll out on Twitter, Stokes, a couple days ago, because I don't know this game individually how interesting it is to people. I think there's a lot of feeling out there that the Bills are going to roll this team. And I think a lot of the fan base more so is focused on those playoff scenarios and what it takes to get the Bills into the playoffs. So we are going to talk a little bit about the Chargers game, what might concern us, but we're going to spend a good chunk of this show, Stokes, on what scenarios the Bills need to have happen to make the playoffs, either as a division winner or as a wild card team. And we appreciate all of you for hanging out with us on this Christmas weekend, Friday night. We understand you all are busy out there. Let's get into it, Stokes, though. Stokes, are you familiar with the term dead cat bounce?
I am.
Do you
Yes.
do you do you subscribe to that term?
In a general sense or in a this weekend sense?
Well, for those that don't know, the dead cat bounce is essentially a boost a team gets in any sport, but in this case, we're talking about the NFL, when they make a massive change like firing their head coach and bringing in an interim head coach, which is what the LA Chargers have done this week. They have fired Brandon Staley finally, and they have promoted Jiff Smith. Do we know if it's Jiff or GIF? I'm assuming it's Jiff, but it's kind of funny that his name is just like the actual image. And, when you look at it, and the Chargers are coming off of long rest because they had Thursday night football last week, and the Bills are coming off of a couple of emotional wins against two of the best teams in the sport, and now it's kind of a look ahead team. All these things would normally play into, oh, well, maybe this is an upset spot. What say you, Stokes? How much of a fear bunker are you living in either dead cat bounce, Bills overlooking the Chargers? Where's your mind at?
I think that they are very, very hungry for this win. I think that we saw this with the Raiders when they got put Antonio Pierce as an interim, and then they came out and they played pretty well since then. But I think this game is a lot different. This is a lot different squad. I think the Bills understand that their margin for error is very, very small. And I can't see them looking ahead. I can't see them taking this game for granted. I've thought this a couple times this season, and they have, but I think that this is like the last straw for them, and I feel like this will be this game where they don't take anything for granted at any point in this game, and they go out there to try and put up 80 on this team.
Yeah, and see, that's my thought as well. And look, I'm not just saying this because I'm a Bills homer. I think when you read the room, you look at the fact that the Chargers lost last week, 63-21. They are playing without their franchise quarterback, Justin Herbert. They're playing without their best defensive lineman in Joey Bosa. They're playing without their two best wide receivers in Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. It's Christmas weekend. It's week 16. There's 3 games left. And I think, Stokes, this team, the fact they lost by 40 points last week, gave up 63, tells me they are just trying to get this thing to the finish line. I am not overly concerned at all about this Chargers team coming out and catching the Bills by surprise. And I think one point you made was very sound. I think the Bills are extra determined. We've seen, I believe it was in the Chiefs game, or maybe it was the Eagles game, where Josh Allen makes a throw and he goes to the sideline. He's like, I'm back. And it's almost like that realization to himself that he hasn't been himself this season. And these Bills, even in that Eagles loss, these last 3 games or 4 games, Chiefs, Cowboys, Eagles, and Jets, have looked like a completely different squad since Joe Brady took over. And I do think emotion is going to be on their side. But all that aside, you take out Justin Herbert, you take out Keenan Allen, you take out Mike Williams, you take out Joey Bosa. what left is really to fear about this Chargers team, Stokes? I know they have Kenneth Murray. I understand Derwin James is still one of the best defensive backs in the sport. At one point in time, Austin Eckler was considered a premier running back in the sport. I don't think we're still living in that day and age. Is there a path outside of Easton Stick being the next Tom Brady, the Hall of Fame quarterback that none of us expected to come around the corner? Is there a path you think for the Bills to lose this game?
It would have to be a couple defensive touchdowns or defensive or slash special teams touchdowns, a couple short fields. Eckler, I don't know what happened to him between this year, but I still think he can be effective. I wonder if it's just a product of Herbert and Rivers before then, but I don't see a legitimate path. It's got to be some sort of calamity like the Jets game at the beginning of the season. But I don't even think this team has the type of players that could effectively act in the same way. But Eckler having some sort of renaissance game would be the only path I could see to it being close if they're able to control the game, much like the Bills did last week against the Cowboys, control the game with the run, and then if Josh Allen gives them the ball a couple times, they're able to force the Bills to chase them. But there isn't a legitimate path in my mind that sees them winning this game.
I'm with you. I think it would have to resemble the week 1 Jets game where every time the Bills get a chance to pull away, there is a really dumb turnover because we know, and Carl is reading my mind. I agree with you, Carl. If every time the Bills get a chance to pull ahead, we see Josh Allen force a ball. And to his credit, he has not been doing that very much lately at all. He should have had 2 of these last 4 games without an interception, but the Hail Mary against the Jets at halftime got picked off, unfortunately. He's playing more efficient, but part of that, Stokes, is what's going on in the backfield behind him because don't look now, but these Buffalo Bills have the second leading rusher in the entire sport. Second-year running back James Cook is the darling of the NFL right now because you know how it goes, Stokes. In fantasy football, if somebody blows up for you in the fantasy playoffs, you love them for the rest of your life. And James Cook has vaulted into superstar status, at least for now, because he had his best game of his career in round 1 of the fantasy playoffs. But last week against against the Cowboys, he had 179 yards on the ground, 42 yards through the air. He has 5 straight games of at least 100 yards from scrimmage. I don't think the Bills are going to be the kind of team that relies on throwing the ball less than 100 yards to get to victory consistently. But I thought it was great to see the Bills had that club in their bag that they can go to in a game script like that. How much do you expect James Cook to continue to be part of the offensive philosophy? Are you at all concerned that they're going to go too much run heavy and maybe they go away from what we think their strength is?
I would expect that there is going to be now a shift in the way the offense is run. For a stretch of time this year, it was like Diggs was the number one, and then Kincaid was the number 2 for about 3 or 4 games there. And I think that when we went to Joe Brady, now that shift is now Diggs is number 1, and now James Cook is the number 2 weapon for this offense. And I would expect that to continue. I don't think that it's going to be a situation where he's going to get 27, 30 carries in a game, but I do think he's going to get 20 touches or opportunities. And what he does with those is going to equate to about 100 yards. And it just seems like there is a concerted effort with getting him the ball, getting him in space, and giving him the opportunity to make plays, and that is what he's doing with that opportunity. And yeah, like I said, I don't think this team is going to be one where they're going to abandon the pass game. But it's nice to see that, hey, you guys think we can't kill a game with the run? We're going to show you that we can, just to keep you on your toes, just so you have to think about it over the course of the week. And if we have to go back to passing the ball a bit more, we can do that just as well.
One thing that aided the Bills last week is the Cowboys were playing without their nose tackle, Jonathan Hankins, because of injury. They're going to have the same situation this week, although it's because of choice. The Chargers today surprisingly released Sebastian Joseph Day, who is available on waivers. I do think the Bills should be interested in signing him. That is an aside, depending on how they feel Daquan Jones is. He was activated His practice window has been opened up, so we'll see if he gets elevated to the active roster in the next 21 days. Jordan Phillips is on IR, so the soonest he can come back is round 2 of the playoffs. I think Sebastian Joseph Day is a veteran who can rush the passer. He can play the nose. I think he would add excellent depth to a team like the Bills right now, because you never know when that next injury is going to hit. But I think this could be a matchup, Stokes, where maybe the script does call for a run heavy approach. But because it is the fantasy playoffs, and I'm trying to figure out which one of these Bills could really excel, I pulled some fantasy stats on these Chargers. And boy, oh boy, is their defense bad when they have Joey Bosa on the field and they have Sebastian Joseph Day on the field. Um, in the entire sport against quarterbacks, they are giving up the 5th most points in fantasy football. Sounds pretty good for Josh Allen. I know you and I both have at least one very important Josh Allen share this weekend. Running back wise, they're giving up the 7th most production to running backs. And outside wide receivers, they are giving up the 3rd most production. The one area they are pretty strong at is defending the slot. And tight end, they are giving up the 7th most production. So just looking at it, Stokes, do you have a sense outside of Josh Allen, who I feel comfortable in saying that we both think he's probably going to come through maybe in a big way this weekend? Do you have a sense for which Bill could be the belle of the ball this weekend, the one that gets the benefit of all those fantasy points?
I am thinking that this is right for a Diggs game. This is right for a nice little 8 catches for 130 and 2 touchdown game where Diggs reminds everybody like, "Hey, I'm still that guy. I'm still amazing." And it just didn't work out the last few games, but we've been winning. I haven't needed to do this, and I don't need to do it today. But I'm going to remind you guys that I'm still about that. So I can see Diggs being the one that's going to benefit. But I still think James Cook is going to get his 100 yards from scrimmage, and he's going to get at least a touchdown. But I think this is a good Josh Allen week. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think Josh Allen is probably going to reward players in a big way that have Josh Allen in their team. I'm looking at this Chargers defense, and I just don't see anything that scares me. I understand Derwin James is very good, but when you start looking at their cornerbacks, I'm trying to pull it up here, and it is going very, very slow. I want to make sure my notes are here. You have Michael Davis, who is just okay. You have Asante Samuel Jr., who is a very good cornerback. And then outside of that, you also have Asang Bassi, who is just a guy. So I think there is a real opportunity for the Bills to pick apart this team in the passing game. And I don't think, as much as I like Kenneth Murray and Eric Kendricks, neither one of those guys are going to wow you with their ability to cover over the middle. Both of those guys are more straight ahead. Sandra says, "Happy holidays." Happy holidays to you, Sandra. I appreciate you hanging out tonight. Happy holidays to everybody. I do want to get this out of the way so I don't forget. I said I've been trying to say this every show. I am fully aware that we all say happy holidays and all this stuff. I also understand for some folks, the holidays are a tough time of year. For me, I lost my dad on Easter. So Easter is one of those holidays that always has like a weird feeling. So whatever you're going through, whatever you feel this time of year, my heart goes out to you. I hope you have a happy holiday, spend it with your loved ones. But if you're struggling this time of year, you have my support. You need to reach out to us. Feel free. We are there for you. But hopefully everybody has a good weekend and gets out of this weekend, whatever they need, whatever they are celebrating. And then we have, has Diggs not got 1,000 yards or more 4 seasons in a row? He has, John. But I think to Stokes's point, it's been scattered production. And I can pull up his game log here just to make sure that I'm speaking accurately. But I want to say Stokes, he's going back to October, the last time he's had 100 yards in a single game.
Yeah, I feel like
And
it's been 5 or 6 games.
right. And as I'm pulling that up, it's been a story. Like you even saw when they're walking off the field in Kansas City that Josh Allen and Diggs were both kind of venting their frustration, not in a bad way. They were supporting each other, but they were saying, we're going to get it figured out. The last time Stephon Diggs has gone over 100 yards was October 15th against the Giants. So I do agree with you, Stokes. It's not like there's another pass catcher in this offense that's consistently eating. Gabe Davis has had 4 0-catch performances in the last 6 weeks. Dalton Kincaid was a target monster when Dawson Knox was out, but they weren't necessarily high A-dot targets. So from there, I think Diggs needs to be the guy that fuels this passing game. I think this is the right matchup, whether it's because it's the one time the Bills are indoors this season. I'm with you. I think there's a chance this is a really big Diggs game. I think him and Allen are hearing the noise, And I do think that's one thing that's missing from this offense. Everything's been great under Joe Brady, but if they can just get Allen and Diggs back to where it needs to be, then I think you're talking about a championship level offense, Stokes.
Yeah. As far as the Chargers defense goes, like Khalil Mack, he's still pretty good. So like if he can cause havoc in the backfield, that could cause issues for the Bills. But the way the offensive line is gelling, I feel confident that we're going to be able to block him up. But he is a factor for sure. So I mean I don't want to discount him because I think he has a 6 sack game this season or 5 sacks, one of those two. So he's been a monster this year. So like Mac or Derwin, those guys are X factors in this game. But aside from them, I can't see much resistance the rest of the way from them. Offensively, yeah, it should be quick and easy and effective. But those guys could cause issues.
We have a question here about Khalil Shakir. I don't think this is the week that Khalil Shakir blows up. Now, look, I will get to our predictions a little bit later. I think the Bills are going to put up a lot of points this week. I really do. So when you're in a situation where the Bills are going to score in the 30s or maybe even the 40s, anybody can find their way to the end zone. And from a fantasy perspective, that's usually all it takes to have a plus day. But when you look at the way the Chargers defend, they are bottom 10 in the league against tight ends, bottom 5 in the league against boundary wide receivers, bottom 10 in the league against running backs, bottom 5 in the league against quarterbacks. The one position that they are actually top 10 in the league against is that slot receiver. So that's one mark against Khalil Shakir. And the other one, Stokes, is it's not like Khalil Shakir has been getting the steady diet of snaps in that position. We have been seeing more 12 personnel since Dawson Knox has been back, which that means Kincaid or Knox can be there. And Sherfield and Hardy are still getting snaps. So do I think there's a chance that Shakir could find his way in the end zone this week, Stokes? Maybe. But I think the process of how I look at fantasy and how I look at try to project which players are going to blow up, he's probably not even in my top 4 or 5 of Buffalo Bills that I'm most excited about.
Yeah, I tend to agree there. I can see Gabe Davis having one of his Gabe Davis type games this week as well. Just because he's predictably unpredictable, and that's the fun of Gabe Davis at his price point right now. It's not so fun if he's making $15 million a year.
Absolutely. And that is a conversation we're going to be having a lot of this offseason. You know, Roy Collins brings up a good point. One name I have not mentioned is Khalil Mack. He is still playing at a very high level, and he obviously is going to be lined up across from either Deion Dawkins or Spencer Brown. Yeah, he still has that game breaker ability. He still has a chance to wreck your offense. But I think what we have seen the Bills do against teams like the Raiders, who really have Max Crosby and nobody else, or what we saw them do the week before that against the Commanders, they've done a good job against defenses where you have like 1 or 2 guys on the defensive line you have to worry about, and the rest of the defense is really just not that impressive. I'm not overly worried about Khalil Mack ruining their Christmas, but Stokes, I know he's a guy you've been a big fan of since he came into the league, and he certainly is somebody at least worth mentioning.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think he could be a problem, and he like he has what a 5 or 6 sack game in the season, so he definitely could cause issues for the Bills, and I don't think he will, but he's to be accounted for.
All right. Well, we're going to get into our game prediction. I always get so confused when somebody says Josh. Josh lost confidence in Davis. I've lost confidence in Davis for about 2 years now, but you're probably talking about Josh Allen, which makes all the sense in the world. Boy, the signs are kind of there, Bob. There was the play against the Chiefs where Davis is running wide open in the end zone and Allen doesn't even look his way. There was a similar play last week where Davis was open on a post route and Allen didn't look his way. It does feel like whether it's lost confidence or whether he's falling down the progressions, Gabe Davis is just not a focal point. And, you know, there is the Justin Shorter angle. He's a big physical prospect the Bills have in their pipeline. He's been on IR all season. He has been activated off IR, so his 21-day window is open. We'll see if he's a guy that can come in and help the Bills. I think he's probably more somebody that will be more so in the mix next year, and hopefully he can amount to something useful for these Bills. One more time, if you are watching on YouTube, first of all, thank you. We are trying to build up Built in Buffalo YouTube as your one-stop shop for all Buffalo Bills content. And we have you covered all day tomorrow for this Buffalo Bills versus LA Chargers game, as we have the Built-in Buffalo Tailgate Show with a new guy, Scott. Tune in. He's going to be there. I believe he's with Akeem. Check that out. They're going to have you covered on everything to look for in this Bills Chargers game. I will be there at halftime. I don't know if I'll be wearing my Santa Claus shirt. That's what's going on here, if you can't tell. But I'll be there breaking down the Bills halftime show. And then I will actually be back on post game with Akeem and Izzy talking about everything that happened in the Bills Chargers game. Hopefully, it is a happy holiday weekend for our Buffalo Bills. One thing that will make it a much happier weekend, Stokes, not only is if the Bills win, but as if they get some help in some games outside of this one, which we are going to get into in a big way as soon as we make our game predictions. So let's get to it. Bills, Chargers. The Bills are officially, as we're sitting here right now, a 12-point favorite, which is a massive line in the NFL. I've seen it as high as 12.5, which maybe that's one that they're trying to get you to tease down to 6.5, so you still get the touchdown cover. I don't know. The over-under is 43.5. So what they're telling you is the Bills are going to win big, and they're going to be the only team that really puts up any points. That's kind of interesting. How do you see this game going, Stokes? Who wins? What's your final score prediction?
The Bills are going to win this game by a lot. It is. I think they're going to cover and cover easy. The only way I could see it cover is a backdoor late, but I don't even think the Bills are going to allow something like that. I think it'll be a situation like Dallas. They're going to keep their foot on the throttle until it's like 31-7, and then they'll let go. But I think this game is going to be 38-17. That's what I'm going to go with for the Bills.
Yeah, and the thing about the Bills is historically under Josh Allen is Colin Cowherd's even said they're kind of like Mike Tyson, where they don't mind knocking out inferior competition. They don't mind styling on an inferior competition. We've seen that a little bit this year in the Raiders game and the Commanders game, but go back to last year against the Bears. This time last year, they put up a bunch of points on the Bears. I think this has the script of where the Bills could get up and they just will not let the Chargers off the mat. This is a very determined Bills team. I am not worried about Easton Stick catching fire. I'm not worried about Austin Eckler running. He's not been very good this year. He's lost snaps to Kelly. They still have Isaiah Spiller there for whatever reason. He can't get on the field. I think it's a pass protection issue. I don't know who they're even going to throw to. We're talking about Gerald Everett. We're talking about Quentin Johnston, who just can't catch a cold right now, which is a shame because I felt like he was a really intriguing prospect coming out. And there's been a lot of good rookie wide receivers, but unfortunately, he has not been one of them. I don't know how the Chargers sustain offense. And Stokes, I think the only way that Josh Allen doesn't have a massive fantasy football performance is if the Buffalo Bills defense houses about 2 interceptions and puts them so far up that they can just turn into the James Cook show. I feel so good about the Bills every which way in this game. I'm not at all worried about the Chargers winning. And I have the Bills winning this game 41-17. And that helps me in a lot of ways. I have Tyler Bass. That's 3 field goals and 5 extra points. I've thought about this. Take that. Maybe some beyond 50. Josh Allen, 2 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown, 1 reception by James Cook, 1 rushing touchdown for James Cook, and away we go. I see Izzy in chat tonight. Izzy, I hope you and your fam are having a good night. Thinking about you, buddy, and look forward to seeing you on the show tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening. You are a post-game show, hopefully talking about a big Bills victory. All right, Stokes. Well, the Bills getting a win against the Chargers in LA is really just one piece of the puzzle. As it stands right now, if the Bills win out, they are 99% to get into the playoffs. So I don't live in this fear bunker that this wild ride of results that include like the Bengals going to Kansas City without Joe Burrow or Jamar Chase and beating Patrick Mahomes, that would have to happen for the Bills to win out and not get in. They're going to, if they win out, they're going to get in. But for me, Stokes, I understand the win out, get in. Great. That's plan A. We all want to win out. We want to win the division. We want to stick it to the Dolphins week 18. I get behind that, but I like having insurance. I'm a big fan of having insurance. And if the Bills were to lose to the Dolphins week 18, I don't want that to be the end of the season. So we're going to play a game now, Stokes, where we go through some games this weekend that would help the Bills get into the playoffs at 10-7 if they need it. And we'll kind of talk about what needs to happen in those games, what that looks like going forward. And because it's the Christmas time of year, we're going to use a Christmas theme for this game. We're going to ask Santa Stokes. Santa Stokes, what I want for Christmas is Team X to beat Team Y. Are you ready, Stokes?
I'm ready. I wish I had my hat.
No, I was looking for my Santa hat before this game. So for this game, I'm going to be on the New York Times playoff machine. And because we're talking about 10-7, I've put in the Bills winning the next two against the Chargers and the Patriots and losing to the Dolphins. All right, Stokes, the first game is actually the first game of the week. It would help the Bills out dearly if the Pittsburgh Steelers at home could beat the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, it is important to know the Cincinnati Bengals are playing without Joe Burrow. They're playing with Browning. They're playing without Jamar Chase. They're playing without DJ Reader. Those are some big name players. The Steelers are playing without their starting quarterback in Kenny Pickett, and they have now benched former Bill Mitchell Trubisky. They're on to Mason Rudolph, and they're also playing without Minka Fitzpatrick. And the line for this game is Bengals -3. Boy, Steelers. The Bengals are playing without all of their studs in your building, and you're still a 3-point underdog. Stokes, I would like to see the Steelers win this game because a Bengals loss, is one game along the way that would guarantee the Bills get in with 11 wins, but two would be very helpful to help the Bills get in at 10. What do you say, Santa Stokes? Can I get that for Christmas this year?
Yes, you can. This will be the Steelers' final home game of the season. So I think this will be a situation where the Steelers come out and they try to do something important for them for the playoff hopes, and they're going to knock out the Bengals in a very nasty game that no one wants to watch, even though it is a standalone game. It'll be 17-10 as a final.
I think the Steelers are live in this game too. For one, Jake Browning, for as much credit as he's getting, looked horrendous last week against the Vikings. It seemed like the bloom was coming off of that rose. And boy, oh boy, did T. Higgins bail him out on a couple of just chef's kiss, masterful catches that were not great balls. Browning had an awful first half. I think there is a chance that even without Minka Fitzpatrick, Mike Tomlin cooks up something for him on defense. And Roy Collins brings up a great point too. Rudolph on Christmas, you have to like your chances there. I've been kind of leaning toward the Steelers this week, Stokes, just because Mike Tomlin is just one of those coaches that right when you start to count him out, his team comes out and plays hard. They are still alive in this race right now. So it's kind of like the last stand of the Steelers. I think the Steelers rise up, and I do think they have a real shot to give these Bengals a loss. So I'm with you. I don't know if I feel great about it, but I do feel like they're live. All right, on Sunday, a team that's near and dear to my heart because of who my family roots for, my brother-in-law, my sister, my nephew, the Indianapolis Colts. Unfortunately, guys, this is a Buffalo Bills show. I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, and the Colts are very much in the Buffalo Bills way. So Santa Stokes, the Colts are playing probably with Jonathan Taylor. This is as healthy as they've been in a while. It looks like Michael Pittman's going to be a go. They are not going to have Isaiah McKenzie for a reason we have no idea about, but it looks like he's been all but kicked off the team. We have a quarterback change in Atlanta as Desmond Ridder has been benched for Taylor Heineke. I don't mind that if we're rooting for Atlanta purposes because I feel like there's no way it could get worse than how it was with Ridder. The Falcons are a 2.5-point favorite at home, which I find kind of surprising because Gardner Minshew's been playing well. Can we get Santa Stokes for Christmas, a Falcons win over the Indianapolis Colts?
I don't think this will be the one. The Falcons, they do play pretty well at home, so I think that is why they are favored in this game. I'm sorry, my dog is barking.
Your dog is not a big
apologies.
fan of that prediction.
So I do think that the Falcons are going to lose this game. The Colts, Gardner Minshew has been playing all season, aside from a couple games, and he's played pretty well. And with Jonathan Taylor back and the rest of their offense, I think they're pretty decent. So I think that this will be an opportunity for the Colts to have a close game and win it. I don't think that they're going to be the ones to give us a gift here.
I don't either. The Colts have actually been good in tight games. They actually beat the Ravens in Baltimore in a close game. A couple weeks ago, they executed well against the Titans, albeit the Titans had an absolutely horrendous day on special teams. I think Gardner Minshew is actually a starting level quarterback in this league. And is he somebody I'd want to be my full time starter? Probably not. But I think, as you always say, Stokes, he's a top 32 quarterback. And it just makes me excited for the Colts' future under Shane Steichen. When you get that Madden created player level guy when Anthony Richardson back next year, you get hopefully a full season out of Jonathan Taylor. Hopefully you can extend Michael Pittman. This offense really has a lot of pieces to get excited about, plus Josh Downs. I do think the Falcons are live this week, but I think it's going to take somebody like Bijan Robinson or Drake London. The Colts have not done good against wide receivers this year, really taking over the game. And that unfortunately falls on the quarterback, and the quarterback has been the position holding back the Falcons all season long. I think there's a chance they win this game, but I'm with you. I am circling the Colts in all of my predictions this week. Let's move on to the next one, Stokes, that's very impactful for these Buffalo Bills. As we are scrolling down here to the Houston Texans at home against the Cleveland Browns. There is a lot going on in this game. We're going to iron through it right now. Absolutely. Let's go Buffalo, Sandra. So this is one of those games where both teams are technically in front of the Bills, and you could make an argument that the Bills should root for either team. So here's how this breaks down. If the Texans win, that's one more loss to the Browns, and that guarantees that if the Bills win out, they will make the playoffs. I am telling you, I am rooting for the Browns to win this game, even understanding what I just said about if the Browns lose, the Bills control their own destiny. Because I would rather trust the fact that not every other game is going to go against the Bills. And the Texans, if they get their seventh loss, they are a team in the way of the Bills. They still have to go to Indy. I think there is a chance the Texans end up getting to 8 losses. If the Texans and the Colts both get to 7 losses before week 18, bada bing, bada boom, one of them for sure is going to be behind the Bills at 10-7. Case Keenum starting for CJ Stroud. Look, for the Bills standpoint, that's obviously a win. For the NFL standpoint, what a bummer that is, because CJ Stroud and Tank Dell were just so much fun to watch. And now both those guys are out. Joe Flacco's putting up numbers, Stokes, but it's one of those, like, you can't really watch the game because it's so hard to watch. But at the end of the day, you're like, wait, he really had almost 400 yards? Because every time I looked over, he was throwing a pick. I think the Texans are actually kind of live in this game, even without Stroud. I want to say I'm going to pick the Browns, but this game would not surprise me either way, even with it being Case Keenum against Joe Flacco.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me either. The way D'Amico Ryans has this Texans team playing, it's really, really cool to see him come back around and be successful there. But I'm with you. I'm rooting for the Browns as well. Mainly, I guess for me, mainly because I don't want CJ Stroud to be in the playoffs, because I'd rather see the Browns in the playoffs as a potential matchup if the Bills were to win the division. To potentially see the Browns rather than the Texans. Because CJ Stroud, he is the real deal, and I would much rather deal with potentially seeing Joe Flacco rather than CJ Stroud. So I'm definitely rooting for the Browns here for all the reasons you mentioned, and because of if the Bills are playing for the division week 18, that could be a possible matchup.
All right, let's go on to the next one. So I think we're both in agreement. I think this one's very much on the table. No matter who you want to win, this is probably a coin flip game as far as Browns Texans go. This is one that I don't think a lot of people are thinking about as far as impacting the Bills, because we've been so focused on the wild card teams that we kind of lose sight of the division leaders. But something has happened in the last couple of weeks. The Jacksonville Jaguars have lost 2 games, and they are one more loss away, coupled with either a Colts or a Texans win, from actually being back in the wild card race, and the team, either Colts or Texans, taking over the lead in the AFC South. If the Jacksonville Jaguars lose in Tampa Bay, the Bills will officially control their own destiny. Now, look, I understand the timing of these games is a little different. The Bills play on Saturday, the Jaguars play on Sunday. So if the Bills were to lose to the Chargers, first of all, if the Bills were to lose to the Chargers, it doesn't matter because you'll never see me again. But if the Bills beat the Chargers, which we're kind of assuming here, the Bills will control their own destiny. All they need is a Jacksonville Jaguars loss in Tampa Bay. Now, we got kind of a big update on that game today. Trevor Lawrence has at least progressed far enough in the concussion protocol that he was able to practice in full today. And Doug Peterson made it sound like he is somewhat probable to play in that game. But the Jaguars have not looked good the last couple of weeks. And Lawrence has other injuries he's dealing with too. The Bucs are interesting. They've been cooking all year with Mike Evans. They finally have got Chris Godwin going a little bit. They have a good running back with White. Baker Mayfield, your guy, is kind of having a career resurgence there. I don't think he's ever going to be a top 10 quarterback, but you talk about top 32. He's absolutely there. He reminds me a lot of a guy from like a couple generations ago, Jeff Garcia, where it's like when he's your starter, you're like, I don't know, but he just finds a way to get it done. Very happy for Baker Mayfield. Santa Stokes, can we get a Tampa Bay Buccaneers win this week, even if Trevor Lawrence plays? And I will tell you the line in this game is, I should have had this up already. This is a bad job by me. The Buccaneers are favored by 2.5.
Yeah, I think that they're probably factoring in the fact that they don't know whether Trevor Lawrence is going to play yet. But I still think that the Buccaneers are probably the better squad right now. Just the Jaguars, they just don't look as cohesive. And, quiet as it's kept, Trevor Lawrence hasn't been playing well as a quarterback. He has numbers similar to Daniel Jones. Now, if you watch them both play, obviously you would prefer to have Trevor Lawrence, but when the numbers play out, they are very similar. But the way Baker has been running this offense, the way he's been using these weapons, I definitely would prefer to beat the Bucs right now, and I think they're going to win this game.
2 number 1 overall picks going at it. That's kind of cool. We have one more game that involves the Miami Dolphins. We're going to get to that one last because I think that one's very exciting to talk about. Let's talk about, okay. All right, Santa Stokes. I've been very good this year. This is a big ask, okay? I understand it's a big ask, but boy, oh boy, would this help if we're trying to get in at 10-7. There's a Miami Dolphins conversation going on in chat. We will catch up on that. And not a lot of love for the Dolphins in chat, which you would expect from Bills fans. We get that. Ray Collins says AFC South is a mess. All right, Santa Stokes. This one I understand, but I've been good. I've dotted all the I's, crossed all the T's. I've been a good person, helped some older ladies cross the street, saved a couple cats from fires, all that stuff. Can I get a New England Patriots victory in Denver without Ramondre Stevenson? Or I think Juju Smith-Schuster. It doesn't really matter. Bailey Zappi's at quarterback. Can I get Bill Belichick one last time to cook up a masterpiece and confuse the Denver Broncos enough to steal a victory in Denver? And just for the record, the Patriots are 7-point underdogs.
I think that we'd have to talk to the elves and have them do some recalculations on the list, because I don't know if that's going to be one that'll be possible. Of course, Belichick can be Belichick, but I feel like there's been ample opportunities for that to be an opportunity for him, and he's just not doing well. At this point, I think he's probably more so thinking about what is going on next year, because that team is just such a tire fire. So I can't see it happening, but I will leave it up to the elves to do the calculations after the show.
Izzy brings up a great point. Tom Brady's 0-3 in Denver in the playoffs. Whew. He's lost twice to Peyton Manning. Can you name the third quarterback he lost to?
So it wasn't Tim Tebow. Brock Osweiler.
Very good guess. Jake Plummer.
All right.
2005. A rare year in the Manning-Brady era where neither one of them made it to the conference championship game. Ben Roethlisberger's Steelers knocked off the Colts in round 2, and then it was Jake Plummer's. They actually, so Izzy said it was Jay Cutler. They saw enough from Jake Plummer in the conference championship game. They lost at home to the Steelers, where they were like, you know what, we're going to go draft Jay Cutler because we are capped here at with Jake Plummer at quarterback. But anyway, he's right. They don't play well there historically. But I do not think the Broncos are great by any means. I know they beat the Bills. To me, they are kind of a ticking time bomb. I am very much for the Bills to get in at 10-7 and to pass the Broncos, we need one more Broncos loss, and they have a very easy schedule. It's New England, the Chargers, these Chargers we've been talking about, and then they go to the Raiders. The Raiders are the team I'm circling. The Raiders have kind of owned the Chargers, and boy, oh boy, are the Raiders putting up a fight for Antonio Pierce, their interim head coach. It's kind of good to see. So it'd be nice if the Raiders could stand up week 18. But so we're living in a world where the Bills go 2-1, lose to Miami week 17. If Stokes, if the Steelers beat the Bengals, the Falcons beat the Colts, the Texans beat the Browns, the Bucks beat the Jaguars, and the Patriots beat the Broncos, even if the Bills go 10-7 and they lose to Miami week 17, they are 83% to make the playoffs. All that means to me is this is a big swing weekend. One, the Bills have to keep winning. If they win out, they're going to be in the playoffs. We all understand that. But if things go the right way on the out-of-town scoreboard, the odds are very good that the Bills could still slip up one more time. This is a big swing weekend for that. I think we will know, Stokes, after this weekend, whether 10-7 is in play or whether the Bills have to win out. And that's a good place to be because the Bills are going to want to win out. But as fans, it'll definitely lighten the stress if you know you have a couple more mulligans.
Yeah, I think that when we go into week 18 and we're breaking down that game and we're talking about how this is the biggest regular season game of Josh's career, and when we're doing all that, we're also factoring in okay, well we can still make it, and even if this and that happens, but I think that if the opportunity is there to take the division, I feel like it's going to be one of those. It's going to be one of those really antsy weeks for us, and frankly, I am excited for that.
I am excited for that too. And Grant says it would be a damn shame to not see this freight train of a team we have rolling right now not get in. I agree. And boy, will they be kicking themselves for some of the games they gave away early in the season, whether it be week 1 against the Jets, the game in New England where they let Mac Jones go down the field in 2 minutes, the 12 men on the field against the Broncos. There's been a lot of tough pills they've swallowed this year, and there'll be a lot of kicking. But hopefully, this is the other kind of a story where you can kind of see this coming, where the Bills are getting hot at the right time. And I say this not just as a Bills fan, Stokes, but as somebody just watching the league. The Chiefs are not impressing right now. The Ravens, to me, are good, but not great. I think they're just kind of like the best, like the most consistent team in kind of a shaky conference. And they just keep losing important players. They lost Mark Andrews. They lost Mitchell, the running back, who was like a really explosive piece of their weaponry. I would not fear the Bills going to Baltimore. To me, honestly, going to Miami is probably the trickiest spot just because of the weather aspect and the speed of that team. I wouldn't fear going to Jacksonville one bit. I really do mean this. I would prefer not going to Arrowhead if they can avoid it. But with this squad, with this AFC, my mindset truly is just get in and see what happens.
Yeah, I think that I can't see the Bills being big underdogs against anyone, even if it's Baltimore, even if it's second round in Baltimore. I see it probably 3.5, 4, because I don't think the Ravens are, as you said, they are consistent. Like their floor is higher than pretty much anyone else's floor. Like their bad game can still grind you and kill you, whereas any other team's bad game and they can still lose. So I think the Ravens they have the greatest margin for error because they don't need as many pieces to work well. Like if Lamar Jackson is healthy, then the defense runs itself and the offense runs itself. So that's where I think that their margin for error is. But I wouldn't be afraid or nervous about any team that Bills would face in the playoffs. And I think that on the flip side, lots of teams would be nervous if they see that the Bills are on their schedule and they're coming to their stadium or they have to travel to Buffalo.
Absolutely. I mean, can you imagine being the Miami Dolphins who have worked all season long to get to like the 2 or the 3 seed You win your division for the first time in what feels like a decade and a half, and your reward is you get to play Josh Allen because you're the 2 seed. And you look across the road at the 3 seed, and the Chiefs are at Arrowhead hosting Jake Browning. And you're like, this isn't fair.
Yeah,
Like we should have got to pick our opponent. We have to play a Pro Bowl, all pro level quarterback, and the Chiefs are playing Jake Browning or Gardner Minshew.
yeah.
So it certainly is the team that you want to avoid. We talked a lot about the wild card. What is absolutely wide open for the Bills is the AFC East. They do need one more Miami Dolphins loss before week 18. The good news is, boy, oh boy, do the Dolphins have a tough schedule. They have to play the Dallas Cowboys this week in Miami, and then they go to Baltimore week 17. Santa Stokes, can I get a Miami Dolphins loss this week to the Dallas Cowboys?
I don't think they'll get the loss this week. I think that the Dolphins they're really taking this one to heart, and they understand what they need to do in order to put themselves in a position to win the division. And they're going to be at home. They have been a really good team at home, aside from the Titans game. But before that, they had been on a track meet every time they were at home, and I think that this will be another one of those opportunities. But it feels like it's one of those. The both of these teams, they haven't done well against good teams, aside from the Cowboys beating the Eagles. So after this, I feel like in the end, whoever loses, they're going to say, well, this team isn't for real anyway. So I think that's more likely to happen with the Cowboys, because the Dolphins, I think that they're gonna pull this one out, and do think they're gonna lose next week though.
I'm going to give my opinion on this game in a second. If you have any fantasy football questions for us, throw them in chat. We'll be happy to give you our opinion. We understand this is a very tense time of year for fantasy football. The playoffs are here. It's the second round of the playoffs for many people. If you're struggling with a sit start question, sometimes you just need somebody with a neutral mind to give you their opinion. We are happy to do that for you. I think the Cowboys are live this week. What am I actually saying? And I understand what Joey's saying down there is Miami hasn't beaten a good team. Dallas really hasn't played well on the road either. That's the bugaboo. And they've only beaten one good team, Philadelphia. I guess the Rams now are coming back to being a good team. They weren't a good team when Dallas beat them. But I look at it as it's one of those things where Miami looked fantastic last week. They got 30 points without Tyreek Hill, and Dallas looked about as bad as possible. So I try not to ride the wave of what's the most recent thing I saw. And I think if I could erase last week from my brain, I would think that Dallas would match up very well with Miami. The one thing that makes me nervous is Hankins is still questionable. And Mozzie Smith did not impress at all as a nose tackle. I think Dallas is going to have to adjust because Miami can run the ball as well, if not better than Buffalo with A-Chain and Mostert. And the one thing about Mike McDaniel is he has a hard time sticking to the run. But, Dallas has had all week to live with what happened. We'll see if they can slow it down. But I do think this is kind of a styles make fights thing. And Dallas is a physical team. Miami's kind of a track meet team. I could see Dallas getting up early in this game and overwhelming the Miami Dolphins offensive line if it becomes a situation where they have to throw. I don't think the Miami Dolphins offensive line, the way it is right now with their backup center, is built to block DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons. But if they're able to run the ball, I think we saw last week that they certainly have some room to go. Now, that's this week. Do you feel good about the fact that Miami will at least lose one of these next two games, Stokes?
Yeah, I feel pretty confident about that. I can't see them beating the Cowboys and then going into Baltimore, with Baltimore having whatever they need to play for in that opportunity. So I feel like they're going to lose one of the two. I don't think they're going to lose both though. So whatever happens on one game is going to happen the opposite the next game. If they lose to the Cowboys, I could see them then bouncing back and beating the Ravens. But I just can't see them winning both.
It'll be interesting to see too if Bills Dolphins week 17 week 18 gets flexed to Sunday Night Football. I don't think it will. And I put out a tweet earlier this week because I think a lot of people expected it's going to. And here's my thought. One, I think this is one of those games. Now, I'm not talking about from Bills Dolphins fans. When you flex a game, you're thinking about the national implications. For the Bills Dolphins, the more information you have when this game kicks off, the less appeal it has a chance to have. And there is a very realistic possibility that when this game kicks off, if every other week 18 game has happened, that both the Dolphins and the Bills already have a playoff spot locked up. And now it's just a game for seeding. And while Bills and Dolphins fans certainly want to have round one in their building, from a national draw perspective, for the random fan watching in Louisiana, how intriguing is it to watch two teams that are going to be in the playoffs anyway play for 3 hours to determine whose building they're going to play round one in? I think the NFL would like to avoid that. Whereas if they put it on Saturday night, because there's going to be 3 games on Saturday, now all of a sudden you have a situation where you can sell to the national public. This could be the Bills' last stand. If they don't win, there's a high likelihood this is the last time you see the Bills this year. The Dolphins, without knowing what the Chiefs or the Ravens, and that's another piece of it. If the Chiefs and the Ravens win, the Dolphins, there's a chance there's a scenario where the Dolphins have nothing to play for. Like they could already have the AFC East locked up, and maybe they realize that it's not worth it to us to risk our guys getting hurt just to keep the Bills out. So I think this is a perfect Saturday night game that weekend where the Dolphins draw is, hey, we could potentially eliminate the Bills. We're still playing for the 1 seed. And for the Bills standpoint is our backs are against the wall. If we lose, we're going to be scoreboard watching tomorrow to see if we get in. What do you think, Stokes? Are you expecting this to be Sunday night, or you like what I'm thinking about Saturday?
I think that either way, it'll be a standalone game. I think if it's for the division, I can see it being a night game. But I can see it being a standalone no matter what. Just for the implications, whether it's the Bills' backs against the wall, whether it's actually for the division, like it's going to be. I don't think they're going to want to have this game competing against a couple of the other Week 18 slate games. So I think it'll be standalone, and whether it's Sunday night or Saturday night, it doesn't make a lot of difference to me. But I can see them wanting to avoid like what they were dealing with was it the Raiders and the Chargers, where they could just tie and both make the playoffs, and then Staley screwed that up. But so I think they'd probably try to avoid that as one of the final games. So I think in the end it'll be standalone, but I think my preference would be for it to be Saturday. I don't want it to be the last game of the regular season.
I'm with you. I don't want to be sweating out all day long. And then there is a rest factor there too. And the Bills are on the road in Miami. Now, look, if it's late at night, the sun isn't a factor. There's a lot of things to think about here. So, and then John says that game is TBD. Every week 18 game is TBD, just FYI. There's a lot of acronyms there. John, week 18, they have a lot of flexibility with that schedule. And normal flex rules don't apply to week 18. They can flex these games as soon as week 17 is over once they know how the standings look. So just be aware of that. All right, we have a few minutes left. We haven't had any fantasy football questions in, which is great because that means all of you are very confident in your lineups. Stokes, what is your favorite Buffalo Bills Christmas gift you've ever received? It could be clothing, it could be tickets, it could be. Do you have one Buffalo Bills Christmas gift you've gotten in your lifetime that stands out above the rest?
Um. Well, I like this jacket that I'm wearing.
It's a sharp
Um,
jacket.
yeah, I've gotten lots of Buffalo Bills gifts over the course of my lifetime, and it's hard to choose just one. But my favorite has been tickets for my birthday. So it's not really a Christmas gift. I'm trying to look around here. I think we'll just we'll go with my jacket. How about that?
I like it. I like it a lot. Last year, my wife got me an early Christmas present. Or no, this was a birthday present too. She got me tickets to the Bills Lions on Thanksgiving. That was pretty cool. One of my favorite gifts I ever got, because up until like 2020, when the Bills just got really, really good and they played a lot of big games, my favorite Bills game I ever watched as like a fan, like through the 17-year drought, even prior to that, was the Bills Cowboys on Thanksgiving in 2019, because it was, for those of us that lived through the drought and just the Bills could never win big road games. They never got primetime games. They never beat a team like that in that spot. To go to Dallas and beat that team in that window was just such an amazing feeling. I could not get enough of watching highlights of that game. And the Bills had a special hat they wore that day. And I was watching the game with my family because we were together for Thanksgiving. Normally, I just kind of like do my own thing with my family, like my kids. But I was there with like my sister, my mom, and they were getting into it. It was a really special day. And I made a comment one point when McDermott was on. I was like, "Oh, I like that hat." My mom just took a note of that and got the hat, and it showed up on Christmas morning for me. So that's a very special hat to me. Grant says, I got military hoodies for Christmas since Allen signed. I love that. Josh Allen got a nice Christmas gift. John Robert is right. He got a nice little snowplow. Try not to injure yourself, Josh, riding around on that thing. Roy Collins says, my favorite Christmas gift was when I was 15. My dad got me an Easy Rider magazine. Mom was pissed. Okay. Respect. Hey, dad's got to live too. We like to have a chance to be the heroes. If you've seen the movie Christmas Story, the dad kind of just does his own thing and gets, I'm not going to spoil the ending, but the dad comes through in a big way at the end. All right. Well, we are getting ready to wrap up here. Biggest comeback NFL history, Frank Reich versus the Titans, which was then the Oilers. That would have been close to Christmas weekend, I assume, because the season started earlier back then. I believe it started on Labor Day weekend. It was 1 week shorter. So that might have been Christmas weekend. And I have to go back and look. Was that January or not? I want to go back and look though. I actually I watched that game on YouTube like all the time, but I never pay attention to the actual date of it. All right, Stokes. Any final thoughts? Any favorite Christmas movie you want to shout out? Do you have a favorite Christmas movie?
I'm pretty lame, and I go with Home Alone. It's just easy to love that movie. That's probably. Although I saw one a couple years ago called Klaus on Netflix, and I wasn't expecting it to be good, and it was actually a pretty good movie.
I'm going to tell you all. Well, my favorite one is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation because I'm a big Chevy Chase guy. I love the National Lampoon's movie. Cousin Eddie is hilarious. Kind of a nut job in real life, but that's okay. We'll live in the world of the movies. I like Home Alone. My hot take is Home Alone 2 is better than Home Alone 1. I think they're both very good, though. I'll give you all a sneaky good movie to watch. I also love the classics. Elf is hilarious. Christmas Story is a classic. There's a newer version of that called 8-Bit Christmas. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's kind of like the same idea where it's made more modern, but it's set in an earlier time, and the kid really wants a Nintendo for Christmas. Really neat movie. Daddy's Home 2. And this is the sequel to a movie, Daddy's Home. That's not a Christmas movie. You don't have to watch Daddy's Home 1 to get the gist of it. Mark Wahlberg, Will Ferrell, John Cena, very good movie. Make time to watch it. And I promise you, you will thank me. It is hilarious and it's relatable. It's got good humor and it's a nice change of pace from some of the sappy Christmas movies. Izzy chimes in with Die Hard. I had not seen Die Hard in the longest time. My wife and I decided to watch it a couple of years ago, and we both really liked it. It is a Christmas movie for anybody that wonders. Brady Bunch Christmas special. I am not hating on that. I love the Christmas specials. Sesame Street Christmas, The Simpsons Christmas, the very first episode of The Simpsons, which if you have Disney Plus, you can watch it on there. And oh, wait a minute. Somebody's saying Home Alone 2 is not better than 1. Well, that's just like your opinion, man. Here's my thing about Home Alone 2 versus Home Alone 1. I feel like they're both kind of the same. So if your argument is they use a very similar plot, I get that. And Home Alone 1 has the originality to it. So I understand from that standpoint. But just going back and rewatching them, I more so enjoy like him having to navigate his way through a city by himself and finding a way to stay in a hotel versus, being in his house. But they're both very, very good movies. And yeah, so I think both of those movies are very good. Stokes, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I just texted Kendall Daddy's Home too, so maybe we'll end up watching that tonight.
Now,
although I guess I could have been taking the wrong way.
I was going to say, did you text her that we're going to watch a movie called Daddy's Home too, or did you just text your wife Daddy's Home?
Daddy's home.
Okay, well, we'll have to put out on Twitter how that goes for you. So, Merry Christmas to you, Stokes, my friend. Hope you and your lovely wife have a great holiday. I don't know if I'm breaking news here, but it is your first Christmas married to Kendall, so I hope it's a special one for you guys. Miracle on 34th Street getting some votes in chat. Shout out to my mom, who would be mad if I didn't mention It's a Wonderful Life. That is one of her favorite ones. Anyway, as I said earlier in the show, I want to reiterate, I hope you all have a very good holiday weekend, whatever holiday it is that you are choosing to celebrate. I hope you're spending it with the people that are most special to you and the people that are most important to you. And again, I totally understand that as happy and as joyful as everybody wants to be this time of year, that doesn't work for everybody for various reasons. If this is a particularly challenging time of year for you, my heart goes out to you. I understand the struggle. I mentioned earlier, my dad died on Easter. That's a weird holiday for me. It's always going to be. You never know what somebody else is going through. So just please be kind. Tomorrow, when you're out at Walmart or Target and you're going to the store and you're in a big hurry to get that one really special stocking stuffer and the person in front of you is walking really slow, give them the benefit of the doubt. You never know what they're going through. Be kind out there. And you never know, like, one kind interaction with a stranger can really uplift somebody. So that's my little piece I'd like to say to everybody. But hey, we appreciate you all for hanging out with us. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. Another shout out one last time to Izzy. Thinking of you, buddy. All the best to you and your family. And speaking of Izzy, the lineup tomorrow is Built-in Buffalo pregame, the tailgate show with Scott and Akeem will kick off, I believe, at 6 p.m. Eastern. I will get that confirmed. I will be live for halftime show, and then I will be live with Izzy and Akeem on the post-game show. Go Bills, go Falcons, Patriots, Cowboys, Steelers, all the other teams we mentioned, Buccaneers, and Stokes. Thanks again for filling in for Luca. For Stokes, I am Josh McCarty. We will see you next time on Bills Chat Live.